Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we're taking a look at another South African semi-automatic civilian defensive carbine. Now, in this case, this is one that is obviously of military lineage, and it differs from a lot of these other guns in that it looks very professionally, militarily designed, and there's good reason for that. This is a Sanna 77, and it actually originates in Rhodesia with a company called GM Steel that manufactured the GM15 full auto submachine gun and the GM16 semi-automatic version thereof. And unlike the vast majority of these guns in both Rhodesia and South Africa, the GM15 in Rhodesia was designed specifically as a military firearm. The Rhodesian military had some submachine guns. They had mostly of British origin. They had Stens, they had Sterlings, they had Uzis, and they needed more submachine guns. So the details are very hazy even to this day, but basically what appears to have happened is they had captured some Czech Sa-25 submachine guns in military operations and decided that's a nice simple design and it's a good gun, and they got GM Steel to manufacture a direct copy of the Czech Sa-25. No licensing. That's why some of the details are still pretty hazy, as they didn't really want to talk about this. So they set up production of this gun in Rhodesia, and right at the same time, by complete coincidence, manufacture of the exact same thing, almost, happened to appear in Johannesburg, South Africa, run by a business called Dan Pienaar Enterprises out of Johannesburg. So clearly what happened is when they made the tooling in Rhodesia, they just happened to make a second set for commercial exploitation in South Africa. So in 1978, these were introduced onto the South African market as the Sanna 77. Sanna is just kind of a colloquial pet name for guns. And these actually ended up being one of the most heavily produced guns of its type in South Africa. So they're very common. Even to this day, it's pretty common to find them. Apparently, it's very uncommon to have them work properly. They have a very poor reputation for reliability. Virtually all of them have broken stocks, and you'll see that when we take a closer look at the gun. But they were manufactured until about 1983. I don't have any numbers on exactly how many were made, but quite a substantial number. And, of course, as I mentioned, they are semi-automatic, firing from an open bolt. So let's take a closer look at, the stock in particular, because that's the one piece that really is distinct from the Czech guns. On the front of the receiver tube, we have all of the markings. So Sanna 77, 9mm para. And then, again, typical of South African firearms, we actually have a production date here in front of the serial number. So this is a 1978 production gun, serial number 1668. As you can see, even, they introduced these late in 1978, and they got at least to 16 or 1700 before the end of the year. So these really did have greater production volume than pretty much any other gun of their type. The stock has Sanna 77, again, molded into the stock there. Now, the stock on these is really the distinctive feature from the Czech Sa-25, because it is a solid polymer, or it might be glass-filled nylon, I'm not sure which, but it's a solid piece. On the Czech guns, the butt plate here actually folded up and kind of acted as a front handguard. None of that is done here. In addition, actually, the front handguard is molded without the stripper clip guide. On the original Czech guns, you actually had this setup where you could put a magazine in the back and a stripper clip here and use the gun to help load magazines, and they didn't bother with that on the Rhodesian and South African copies. Now, to open the stock, all we have to do is push this down out of its catch, and then just lift the stock open, like so. On the guns originally, let's see, in the light, you can see two little kind of marks there. Originally, they had a sticker on them that said in big bold letters, "Pull back that way." And the manual has in all caps that you have to pull the stock back in order to release it and fold it. This wasn't a big deal for the metal Czech stock. The problem was, on the plastic stock, people ignored that, or they didn't pull it back hard enough or far enough, and then tried to bend the stock and snapped them off. And that is endemic to the Sanna 77s. This particular one, someone broke it, and it's been repaired here with a screw. but it's very rare to find them with the stocks intact. So in order to do it properly, we're going to pull this back like so, and then you can fold it over. The magazine is identical to the 9mm Czech Sa-25 magazine. It's got this distinctive trapezoidal shape to it. It is a 40-round magazine. However, it's funny to note in the manual for this gun, it says magazine capacity is 40, 30 recommended. So the magazines probably weren't all that reliable, which doesn't help contribute to the other reliability problems that these guns had. The sights on here are kind of like an HK drum, except you have 4 different V notches to choose from. And then the front sight is an absolutely massive post that's kind of dwarfs the sight hood that protects it there. And then in every other way, mechanically, this is a straight copy of the Czech Sa-25. So I'm not going to go ahead and disassemble it. It looks basically identical to the Sa-25 inside. If you're curious about that, go ahead and take a look at the Sa-25 video that I have already on the channel. So while this really looks like a military submachine gun, it actually is a semi-automatic only gun. It was introduced and marketed specifically for self-defense in rural areas, primarily farmers, people who were kind of out on their own and subject to violent crime and attack. This is the sort of thing that was marketed to them. Women in particular were the marketing targets of 9mm carbines like this. The idea was, of course, the men would have full power rifles, things like Fowls, basically, maybe G3s. And for women, it was easier to shoot a 9mm carbine. So that was the intended market purpose. That was the customer base for these guns. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this. Hopefully you learned something about another cool South African firearm. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel directly. It's you guys that make it possible for me to travel around, find guns like these, and bring them to you. Thanks for watching.